He was the friendly, glitter-loving DIY guy millions trusted online. A YouTube star, a Facebook influencer, a cheerful crafter who seemed harmless. But now, Michael David Booth is facing serious criminal charges. Police say the man known online as Mr. Crafty Pants allegedly shared explicit images of children on social media. And the investigation shows it wasn't just once or twice. As the community is left reeling from the shocking charges against the YouTube star once known for his cheerful DIY videos. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Stewart. If you've ever fallen down that rabbit hole of DIY videos on YouTube, you might have come across someone called Mr. Crafty Pants. He was the friendly, glitter-loving DIY guy teaching you how to make custom t-shirts, cards, and home decor. 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, hundreds of thousands more on Facebook and Instagram. But police say behind that cheerful, family-friendly persona was something much darker. Booth was arrested this week in Kentucky, charged with distributing and possessing explicit images of children. Detectives say he wasn't just collecting them, he was sharing them over and over on a messaging service. Investigators traced a Kik account spreading child sex abuse material right back to Booth's home in Prospect, Kentucky. They say the account even had selfie-style photos of Booth proving it was him. But one detail investigators found was particularly disturbing. Booth had allegedly been sending out images of children under 12 on at least 10 occasions. Before his arrest, Michael David Booth was known to hundreds of thousands of people online as Mr. Crafty Pants, the over-the-top, always cheerful crafter who made glitter, vinyl, and heat presses look like pure magic. His YouTube channel, launched in November of 2019, grew fast, more than 595,000 subscribers before it was taken down after his arrest. On Facebook, another 200,000 followers. Instagram, nearly 50,000 more. His tutorials were bright, enthusiastic, and heavy on catchphrases. One clip promotes what he called Craftmas, a mashup of crafts and Christmas, a holiday live stream that he appeared to host each year.
Everyone is freaking out about the Craftmas announcement. Now, a lot of y'all are asking, is this replacing what usually happens in November? And the answer to that is yes. So if you want to be a part of the best Craftmas ever, it is very important to be watching live Friday, July 25th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Another video shows off his typical DIY how-to style, guiding viewers through an adhesive tutorial.
This is going to blow your mind. So this is Caesar Easy Weed Adhesive, which I'm actually cutting out right now on the StarCraft Solo. You could also use the Cricut. It's basically a clear adhesive in HTV form that we will use to attach down the StarCraft electrofoil. It's totally magic, but more on that in a second. I'm currently weeding it out with my pen, but here's a little hack for you. Use your Cricut Easy Press or Heat Press to heat up your matte or lower platen. Take your HTV with the sticky side facing up and rub that on the heat. It loosens up that adhesive and makes it so much easier to weed. Preheat your shirt for about 5 seconds, and I do have this set to 305 Fahrenheit. Use a cover sheet and tack this HTV down for about 5 seconds. You want to do a warm peel on this, and here comes the magic. Cover that Easy Weed adhesive with the StarCraft electrofoil. Don't forget that cover sheet, and we're going to give this thing plenty of pressure for 15 seconds at 305. Can't forget a little jiggle with it. Now this needs to be a completely cold peel. Pay no attention to what I'm using to cool this thing down with. Once it's cool, you rip it off like a Band-Aid. Oh, and all the materials are in the comments. Like and follow for the next one. Let's go.
In the final video he posted to Facebook on October 21st, he's unboxing a new crafting gadget. His voice is shaking with excitement.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my. Happiness is no mystery. It's now. It's oh my god. Hey now, this is what dreams are made. Oh my god. Hey now, this is what dreams
I can't believe this is real. Ooh, okay.
The caption beneath the video reads, "What you're seeing isn't just another product, it's the result of endless research, all-nighters, hard lessons. Seeing it for the first time wrecked me in the best way possible." He went on to thank his fans and tease a launch tied to his annual Craftsmas Mega Mystery Box, writing, "You're not just getting a box, you're getting a piece of my heart, and maybe a few of my tears too." Comments flooded in, all supportive, full of congratulations and encouragement, just one day before police would arrest the man behind those cheerful videos. According to an arrest report obtained by Law&Crime, between August 5th and August 7th, a social media account on the messaging app Kik was reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for distributing child sex abuse material. That account, authorities say, belonged to Booth. Before we get back to this episode of On the Case, I need to take a moment and thank Upside for sponsoring this episode of On the Case. We're talking about a free app that gives you real cash back on daily essentials like gas and groceries. I use it every time I pump gas. Or maybe I go out to lunch, I use Upside, perhaps maybe picking up some gum or Tic Tacs at 7-Eleven or another convenience store. I'm using Upside. So why not get cash back when you do all of these things? And we're talking about real money here, real cash back, money that appears in your Upside app that you can transfer straight into your bank account. Once you have the free Upside app, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You pay as usual using a debit or credit card, and then you follow the steps on the app and you get paid. So to find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside, or scan the QR code on your screen and use our promo code OTC and get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. That is promo code OTC for an extra 25 cents back on your first gallon of gas. Police executed a search warrant on the account and confirmed the distribution of illicit material. The warrant included 2 selfie-type photos of Booth tying the account to him. A subpoena for the IP address used to send the files linked the activity directly to Booth's home in Prospect, Kentucky. The files themselves were limited in number, but troubling in content. The investigation found that there were allegedly 6 images in total, 3 depicting children under 12 and 3 showing teenagers. The under 12 images were reportedly shared at least 10 times, while the older children's images were distributed at least 15 times. The charges brought against Booth are severe. According to the arrest report, he faces 10 counts of distributing matter portraying sexual performance by a minor under the age of 12. 15 counts of distributing matter portraying sexual performance by a minor over 12 but under the age of 18. 3 counts of possession of matter portraying sexual performance by a minor under 12, and possession of matter portraying sexual performance by a minor over the age of 12 but under 18, his first offense. The news shook Booth's normally quiet neighborhood. People told reporters that they were stunned to see multiple police vehicles parked outside his house. Laura Nash, who lives across the street, described it as a gut punch, telling WAVE News, "It makes you feel really vulnerable. It's terrifying. As a mom, to hear about something like this, it just makes you realize that you're not safe anywhere." Another neighbor, Lindsay Smart, pointed to a Halloween yard sign that Booth had displayed. It read, "I smell children." She told media, quote, "You feel like you know your neighbors, but what goes on behind closed doors, I guess we never know. It's sickening, it's disgusting, and I'm so glad he got caught." Booth was arrested on Wednesday, October 22nd, and taken into custody. He appeared in Jefferson County District Court the following day. He entered a plea of not guilty on all the charges, and he had his cash bond set at $100,000. The court also ordered that he have no contact with minors and no access to the internet, no social media, and no contact with minors while this case moves forward. His next court appearance is set for October 31st. Joining us now is Colonel Alex Payne, Chief Deputy of the Bullitt County Sheriff's Office. Thank you, sir, for taking the time, as always, to be with us here on Law and Crime. When it comes to these investigations, just how is it that law enforcement, I mean, this one came in as a tip. I mean, how typically do you find out that this type of stuff is being shared online?
That's one way. we operate in sort of a vacuum in cases like this. We depend primarily on the public, to send us information on things that they encounter, or maybe they suspect something is going on, or they have information that they want to share as far as pictures, videos, things of that nature. Because historically, we just don't have, in my opinion, enough people committed in my line of work to crimes against children via internet. It's something that we are growing towards, but so we depend a lot on the public to give us information that they come across while they're spending time with their electronic devices, and then they come across something that they believe may possibly be illegal, and they get us involved, and then we can take it from there.
What stands out to you about the suspect in this case?
He would say what I would say, that he's typical, probably a guy that hides, blends in. Like, for example, the community that he's from. I live in Jefferson County. Norton Commons is a very nice, low-key area. People move into that area. One of the reasons they do is low crime, things of that nature. But this is the type of crime that, you can't, it knows no boundaries. It's generated with our technology that we live with each and every day. And so it doesn't really matter the quality of your neighborhood, the safety of your so-called city streets really don't come into play here. This is all over computers. And this guy, where they have maybe one aura walking around day to day in their contact with people throughout their communities, but yet they've got a darker side that exists online, and he fits that mold.
How did people even find this stuff? I know, like, when people talk about certain apps, this one's on Kick, which I have never used myself or was aware of. I think for a lot of people, we think of like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and it seems like in these cases that it's a whole different world of whether it's apps or parts of the internet. Like, where does this stuff, like, someone even come in contact with this type of stuff?
Yeah, and here's the bad thing, Chris. I mean, this stuff changes too all the time. I mean, it's just like this app. I have no idea, what Kick is, and so that's why I think it's incumbent upon us to put more resources towards these things, because you have to have the ability to stay on top of it because of what we're talking about right now. How quickly it changes, how quickly they'll shift from one app to another. And we have to stay aware, of that kind of movement and that kind of activity that goes on these things. But thank goodness, there's still a lot of good, moral, upstanding people out there, and, that use these apps for total righteous purposes, totally legal purposes, for probably what they were meant to be used for. But yet you still will always come across those individuals who use it for, sick things like this.
Yeah, and it seems like from what law enforcement has said they have is not only the images themselves, apparently there are selfies that he took, so that'll tie you right to a crime for sure. And then the IP address also goes directly to his home. It seems like it's a pretty strong case that prosecutors could have against him. But what are some of the challenges that you've seen in investigations like this, in knowing that someone, as an investigator, maybe this person has this material, but making sure there's that direct line that a prosecutor can use to get a conviction?
And there's where you get into the really technical side of this, being able to prove that this material actually came to this particular IP address, and then once it came to this particular IP address, it was distributed to other IP addresses. And so therein lies the technical side of these types of cases. And again, yet another example of why, I think, we need to develop our own, and most large agencies have them, in-house experts on things such as that.
And that was going to be my next question, because when it comes to law enforcement, you respond to murders, gun cases. In this case, very technical, very different. I mean, typically, what type of training do sheriff's offices, police departments have in being able to get that technical evidence that you're going to need in court in a case like this?
Right. The training's out there. It's not the training that's the issue. And those departments that work closely with our federal partners, have even access to more training and more folks that are on that expert level that we're talking about here that will help us, help local agencies out with cases such as this. And thank goodness for them, because they're very, very capable people and willing to share their time and talents and services with local law enforcement. So a lot of it comes from the federal side.
I know he is facing several charges related to possessing this material, distributing this material. It seems that law enforcement knows how many times he distributed certain pieces of this material. What goes into what someone faces as far as the charges in a case like this?
Well, here, it will vary. These investigators will get with local prosecutors as far as, the degree of seriousness of these crimes, depending upon, what they've got there with those images and the material that they have. The prosecutor will then look at all of this material, look at the case as a whole, the strength of the case as the whole, and come forth with whatever charges they believe that they can successfully prosecute. And we'll find out, here pretty soon, in this case, because I'm sure it's probably not the end of it, because each of those IP addresses that you're talking about, you're reaching out to somebody else who's now receiving these things. And so, it's just like a spider web. These things will branch out and branch out.
And it's really sad and disturbing to think about, but we don't know who the children are in these images. We know that he possessed them. Yep. Don't know if he didn't see anything about as far as he was the person who took the images, but how do you go about finding who these children are and where this stuff originated from? Yeah,
that's part of the complicated nature of these particular cases involving electronic crimes. And, hopefully they've got information that will lead us, or law enforcement, to identify who these potential victims are. And, it's sad, this age that we live in. There are so many advantages to having this modern technology. It's just like cell phones or computers. When you think of those things and your children, we allow them to have it because it opens up the world to our kids. But there's the double-edged sword side of that. It also opens up our kids to the world. And so that's why I think we as parents, we as we really got to keep an eye on what our children are consuming. And simply for these reasons, I'm hoping they can identify who these victims are, but again, that's going to be difficult.
What's the punishment for the charges that he's facing in this? I know I have them here. He's facing 10 counts of distributing material, portraying sexual performance by a minor under the age of 12, 15 counts of distributing matter portraying sexual performance by a minor over the age of 12 but under 18,
Yep.
3 counts of possession for a minor under 12, and then he's facing 1 count of possession of matter portraying sexual performance by a minor over the age of 12 but under 18. That's his first offense. What type of punishment could he be looking at?
He's looking at a lot. I would literally have to go ahead and grab the old Kentucky Revised Statutes and look at the elements and punishments for those things. But I can definitely promise you, just from being in this line of work as long as I have, he's looking at a lot of time.
And I know this is more, I think, for a district attorney, but seeing that it seems like they have him. I mean, they have the selfie, they have the IP address. There's really, what happens now in terms of, maybe he takes it to trial and tries his best, I don't know. But for this point, if you have him and you're looking for other people who potentially could be in some sort of ring, how do you use the evidence that you have against him to try and get someone else?
Well, it depends, on like one of the things. Hopefully the guy has somewhat of a conscience left, and maybe he talks to investigators. And maybe he has knowledge of who these other folks are, but he may know code names and things like that. So it's kind of hard, from that perspective to figure out. They may just have to follow the trails electronically and go that way. But it can become very complicated. But We have the technology, we have the people that have the expertise in this to track it down. And again, this doesn't change anything as far as the law enforcement standpoint. These investigators will know their case inside and out, and they will be the best witnesses for their case that they could possibly be. It'll be up to them to work with the prosecution to get that successful conviction.
How common is it, because he is just accused at this point, I say just, but possessing and receiving this type of material? What happens now? I mean, how common is it for someone who possesses this material to have actually taken part in potential explicit activities with someone who is underage?
Well, from the training that I can say that I personally have received in this area, it's almost like a progression with these folks in the vast majority of the time. At least this is what I've been taught. They'll start, usually at a small scale and then work their way up. And as they get to a certain point, there's a very large percentage of them that once they reach that point have participated in the gross things that we're talking about today. And that's a sad commentary on our society, to say the least. But that's what I've been taught.
Well, and I also think too, just from a law enforcement standpoint, because this suspect, he was someone who was really popular online, had this very bubbly personality in terms of what he was probably making off the social media platforms, was having, earning a good living, and now his world is over. All likelihood, he's going to head to jail on some serious charges. For law enforcement, when you're going to arrest somebody like this, knowing that you're dealing with a person who probably will realize in those moments that you're busting through the door, if that's how this went down, I mean, how do you prepare for this type of arrest, knowing that this is someone with no criminal record, and they could be in that moment of this is, I don't know if he was armed, but just the dangers surrounding taking down someone like this?
Yeah, I'm not going to really talk about the tactics in particular. I really don't want to give anything away, but the mindset is the same. Safety first. And so based upon intelligence gathering that we'll do on these individuals, part of that being their criminal history, if they have any tendency toward violence, things of that nature, we'll usually put together what we refer to as a matrix. A particular score on that matrix will determine how we execute that particular arrest warrant. And so if the matrix score is very high, we'll go in with a greater degree of caution. If the matrix score is fairly low, it may be just a couple of plainclothes detectives just knocking on the door and saying hello. And a lot of times, fortunately, that's how it ends. They'll get a knock at the door, they go, they not really expecting anything, they come, they answer the door, they identify themselves, and it's over right there.
Yeah, that definitely just a very sad situation, very disturbing to see someone who portrayed themselves as so, warm and friendly, and then it was really anything but when you think of what he's accused of. Of course, innocent until proven guilty. We'll see how the court case plays out. Colonel Alex Payne, it is always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, sir. No problem. Have a good day.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.